Hello, folks. This is Steve, AB4L. I want to have some fun making fun of AI. You know, everything is AI now. Can I remember other periods of similar exuberance? Yes. So, this is not a promotion, it's not a recommendation. I go to slashdot.org, news for nerds. I'm a nerd, and I'm scrolling down. Oh, that poor Japanese made moonlander crashed. I read the actual official excuse written by the leader of the project at the company in Japan that did the whole project. And basically, what happened is, as the thing is coming down, trying to see where it is, and it's doing great, and then it passed over a crater, unexpectedly apparently, and suddenly the altimeter, instead of saying it was 1 mile to the surface, said we're there. They turned the rocket motor off. Well, it was actually 2 kilometers high, so it crashed. Because the way the logic was, they were using two inputs, one computational from simulation and one from actual data. And when there was a big difference, suddenly they shut one of them off and relied on the other one. And the other one was the simulation, and it said, we're almost there, you can cut the motor. But it was 2 kilometers up. Crash. Now that's an example of non-AI design and action. But I want to show you AI. The problem with the matrix theory of AI-assisted human learning, New York Times opinion piece. Vox co-founder Ezra Klein. Never heard of him before. One lesson of the digital age is that more is not always better. The magic of a large language model is that it can produce a document of almost any length, in any style, with a minimum of user effort. You just tell it, I want something like this, and it does it. You don't know and don't care how it does it, right? See, when I enlarge something, you notice how it just goes wandering off someplace. You'd think they would figure that out. Oh, I've complained about that before. So the Klein continues. You might counter that AI will solve this problem by quickly summarizing complaints for overwhelmed policymakers. Much as the increase in spam is sometimes somewhat countered by more advanced spam filters. Jonathan Frankel, the chief scientist at Mosaic ML, that's another project, and a computer science at Harvard, described this to me. Now, this is Klein talking about him talking to another genius. He described this to me as the boring apocalypse scenario for AI, in which, now he quotes him directly, we use ChatGPT. That's what made all the headlines 2 months ago, right? ChatGPT. We use ChatGPT to generate long emails and documents, and then the person who received it uses ChatGPT to summarize it back down to a few bullet points. And there is tons of information changing hands at the speed of light over fiber to the curb. But all of it is just fluff. We're just inflating and compressing content generated by AI. Now I'm going to show you how true that is. I'm going to use I'm just going to keep scrolling. And we'll go to this one here. It's just a few more articles down, published a little bit earlier. A lawyer greatly regrets relying on ChatGPT after filing motion citing 6 non-existent cases. Oh, he used ChatGPT to help him write a legal brief? The judge's opinion noted the plaintiff's counsel had submitted a motion to dismiss, quote, replete with citations to non-existent cases. Fluff. Magnified. 6 of the submitted cases appear to be bogus judicial opinions with bogus quotes and bogus internal citations. Yeah, when you cite a brief and you pick something out of a case decision over here, you have to make it put down in footnotes and stuff so that they can go and look at it themselves, meaning the judge. Because I'm giving a brief and the opposition is giving a brief and the judge is supposed to figure it out. The bogus Varghese decision contains internal citations and quotes, which in turn are non-existent. So remember what the guy who's the expert said at Harvard? People are going to use this to write these big, impressive papers that are full of hot air and shit. No, he didn't say shit. He said hot air, effectively. But also he meant shit, made up stuff, to see if they can steamroller you. But if you're smart, and maybe the judge did this, or maybe he just used Google search. when he started putting the citations, copy and paste, maybe Google search couldn't come up with anything. And after he found the first one, he said, let's have some fun. Let's see how many more citations the search engine doesn't know about. Oh, and we can try Bing too, and we can try DuckDuckGo. And if none of them can come up, it must be him doing this to me. So this legal blog then described what happened next. Now, I want to give credit. I haven't gone to look at it. You see how the link takes you to something? A lawyer's filing is replete with citations to non-existent cases. Thanks, ChatGPT. It names the judge. Judge Kelvin Castile, Southern District of New York, May 4th. Oh, wait a minute. There's the legal opinion. See what I mean about Google search? Now, this is online, United States District Court, Southern District of New York. That's New York City. Roberta Mata, plaintiff against Avianca Incorporated, order to show cause, Castile USDJ District. The court is presented, first time I'm reading it. First time I'm seeing it. And the reason why I'm going to read this is because I read the first sentence as I came to it, and I think it'll be interesting. This is the actual legal opinion of the court. The court is presented with an unprecedented circumstance. A submission filed by plaintiff's counsel, that would be the company, in opposition to a motion to dismiss is replete with citations to non-existent cases. When the circumstance was called to the court's attention by opposing counsel, the reason why briefs are published, that is, you give them to the judge, but you have to give copies to the other party. What is the other party going to do? Research it and tear you apart, in case they need to file an amended answer, which is, I think, part of the process. When the circumstances, now remember, this is presumably humans. When the circumstances were called to the court's attention by opposing counsel, for apparently the lawyer for Mata, whoever he is, I'm guessing search engine will know who it is. Roberto Mata, College of Arts and Sciences, Assistant Professor of Contextual Bible Studies, maybe photographer, somebody who's been, it's a fairly common name. Let's see what this company does and we can get a hint. Corporate profile. Avianca is a trademark representing Latin American airlines integrated with Avianca Cheap Flights and Plane Tickets official site. Okay. When the circumstances was called to the court's attention by opposing counsel, the court issued orders requiring the plaintiff's counsel to provide an affidavit annexing copies of certain judicial opinions of courts of record cited in his submission, and he has complied. 6 of the submitted cases appear to be bogus judicial opinions with bogus quotes. This is court record, folks, court decision, and bogus internal citations set forth below is in order to show cause why plaintiff's counsel should not be sanctioned. What does that mean? That means he's in trouble, but he's going to have to give a good excuse to keep out of trouble. The court begins with a more complete description of what is meant by a non-existent or bogus opinion. In support of his position, there was a tolling of the statute of limitation under the Montreal Convention by reason of a bankruptcy stay. The plaintiff's submission led off with a decision of the U.S. Filed a cover, at least an excerpt therefrom. The clerk of the United States Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit, where the case was cited from, in response to this court's inquiry, we went to that court and asked them to look up this particular case that was cited. Confirmed that there has been no such case before the 11th Circuit with a party named Varghese, or different spellings, at any time since 2010. He further states that the docket number appearing on the opinion furnished by the plaintiff's counsel, docket is for a case captioned George Cornea versus you. In other words, they grabbed something from something totally unrelated. But who did that? Who did that? ChatGPT. ChatGPT didn't make up stuff. It just did word. Oh, it didn't do word salad like the vice president does. It did legal citation hash and remash. We don't need to go on. Isn't it great? ChatGPT. Now, I remember back in, December or something like that, I was early in putting up a episode about North Carolina State University Computer Science Department graduate level worried about these online AI things are going to help students cheat. They wouldn't have to actually do their assignments, computer programming. They could go online and get the robot to do it. That's what this apparently, allegedly, although is it alleged anymore when the court says, what the hell were you doing? We figured out what you did. It's a mishmash, non-existent and mishmash. Oh. Their affidavit said that ChatGPT had revealed itself to be unreliable, while adding that they had never used ChatGPT as a source for conducting legal research prior to this occurrence. Oh, now they're trying to say, AI is the big thing. We thought we would try it out in this case. We've never done this before. Oh, we were deceived too. Or something like that. Because he's about to get sanctioned. What do you think that means? What if this, I don't know how they sanction money? Tell them they can't practice before the court? Send their license out for review? I don't know. What does sanction mean? I'm an idiot running my mouth. I don't know anything about law. I'm just reading this stuff and reading between the lines. They had never utilized ChatGPT as a source for conducting legal research prior to this occurrence, and therefore were unaware of the possibility that its content could be false. The affidavit adds that the lawyer greatly regrets, they're quoting him, having utilized generative artificial intelligence. Notice how he's got these big, long technical terms that know him again. Generative, it makes something up or it puts something together. Generative. Artificial intelligence. Look, intelligence could be IQ of 10 or it could be an IQ of 200. There's a big difference between those two things. The lawyer greatly regrets having utilized generative artificial intelligence to supplement the legal research performed herein and will never do so again in the future without absolute verification of its authenticity. You know what the judge is going to say? Why did we have to authenticate it? I wonder what his answer to that one's going to be. I can think of it. I can think of the comeback. Are you kidding me? You're still trying to snow me. Are you kidding me? So, just having a little bit of fun with AI, and I didn't have to go any further than /.org today. And on the same daily collection, I found one thing that predicted the other. The big geniuses are saying what this stuff is good for in the right hands is to try to do a snow job, but if they're smart, they can use it to reverse the snow job to see what's really in there, find the pebbles that they're trying to hide in the big snowball. That's my interpretation of what the guy said from Harvard. You notice that he used the, Now, fresh in your mind is what I read from the legal response of the judge of the court. Not the court said, "What are you doing?" Now, think of the lawyer who used the GPT to create that snowball, and it said right here, Jonathan Frankel, the chief scientist there at Harvard, he called it the boring apocalypse. We're living through the boring apocalypse. That was December 10th something. But all right, so the phrase came from somewhere. Amazon. The boring apocalypse. Paperback. March 2nd, 2015. Brandy Wells has etched her name in history alongside the greatest sadists of our time. This boring apocalypse is the third book of Wells' career. The visceral violence depicted within her pages are not only once the true nature of her intent is clear, this boring apocalypse forces you to start at the beginning and take everything from a new perspective. Wells crafts a story about the apocalypse nature of our relationship, bearing new gifts with every page, torture, pain, and mundane. But why did the guy call it boring apocalypse? I'm almost sure that the guy at Harvard read this book Excuse me for letting my mind stray. There's a reason why he called it that. Association for Psychological Science. We're living through the boring, in quotes, apocalypse. December 14th, 2021. This is the Association for Psychological Science. It could have been a scene straight out of an apocalyptic horror movie when the World Health Organization declared the Omicron variant of the coronavirus a variant of concern, then many of us went straight back to whatever we were doing. In the poll of Americans conducted by December, 94% had heard of Omicron, despite the questions that remain unanswered about the risks and whether it can evade vaccines. Only 23% said they're likely to cancel their holiday plans. The stark difference between when the pandemic started, back then we learned of this highly... So I'm just trying to see what the guy... Boring apocalypse. Oh, I get it. I can see that why he says that. Jonathan Frankel, chief scientist at Mosaic ML, described this to me as the boring apocalypse scenario for AI, in which we use ChatGPT to generate long emails and documents. And a lot of the news that comes through to us every day sounds like a lot of it sounds like it could overwhelm us. And we say, oh no, not another. And then we just go back to our ordinary life and forget it. Boring apocalypse. We hear all these messages about doom at the doorstep tomorrow morning. And we're hearing it every day. We're hearing it 5 or 6 times a day. And then we go, oh yeah, I've heard that one before. And we use ChatGPT to generate long emails and documents. We use the internet and the news services and the TV and the movie films to generate even more incredibly devastating scenes that are going to happen to us 5 minutes from now. Then we have to have some kind of mechanism where we melt it down. Boring means, oh yeah, I've kind of heard a variation of this one before. Wake me in the morning. Fluff. We come to think it's fluff. Enough. I've had fun with this. I've had fun with it. And I like the fact that I'm going to make a final comment, and it isn't restricted just to lawyers, because I've had this experience with doctors, and in the case of a graduate student who was going for a PhD, is at times people become desperate and they represent themselves one way. And what they're doing is, in order to get more money, to get you to pay them, they, in a certain sense, they have to give you some kind of devastating news, decision, keep you on the hook. And they assume that you're not educated enough, smart enough, whatever, to figure out that it's BS. Steve AB4L, just having fun, letting his mind wander. Boring apocalypse. Yeah, actually, it does refer to that gal's book. I can tell now, even though I didn't read the rest of it. Yeah, that's why they said you have to, first you go through it and you're shocked, and then when you get to what she's really after, you go back and re-review it, and you can see all the fluff in it. And she's trying to get a message about ordinary life and human reaction to it, emotional reaction to it, intellectual, non-intellectual reaction to it. Steve AB4L just finished running his mouth, saying see you at 73.